You know the name Doug Poppa?
Yes, I do. God bless Doug Poppa, an honest cop.
I was elated, of course, but then as he testified, I was somewhat concerned for him, because I knew that they were probably going to crucify that man.
The top cop who put his badge on the line for justice.
One man who confronted truth and consequences.
Yeah, when you look at the court records on paper, you can see the women spell their names differently, but they are pronounced the same. The police tell us they were born just 5 days apart, and that's just where the confusion starts. This is Keyherra Green. Metro says she admitted to killing 72-year-old Ghassim Al-Sakari inside his mobile home near Desert Inn in Nellis in late January, living with his decomposing body until police were called because of the smell in March. But it took them months to find this Keyherra Green, even though they had her name almost immediately.
We identified a suspect who was a black female named Keyherra Green.
The issue is a different Keyherra Green came up in Metro's database. Officers showing her mugshot from a previous situation to several witnesses, along with a selfie they found on the victim's phone.
All three of them identified the person as being Keyherra Green.
Detectives showing 13 Action News those two photos off camera because they say they can't make them public, with the photos appearing to show the same person because of the camera angles. Those three witnesses were enough for detectives to get a warrant for Keyherra Green in March. That woman eventually arrested in May in Southern California and extradited to Las Vegas. Detectives saying immediately the first Keyherra arrested claimed not to know anyone involved. After several days in jail, police say the woman's public defender raised the issue and they started investigating.
They started looking through body camera footage that we had of the suspect, and they were able to determine a discrepancy in a gap of the teeth.
While Metro will no longer release the mugshot of the mistaken Keyherra Green, they immediately realized she wasn't the woman they were looking for, releasing her on June 7th. Weeks later, they say the other Keyherra, the one they say admitted to the killing, ran into trouble.
On the 26th of June, a Karen Green is arrested, and we are able to link that as being our suspect.
While they've reviewed all of their moves and say all of the information pointed to the first woman arrested, detectives say they feel horrible about the mistaken identity.
At the end of the day, the wrong person was arrested, and I'm just very fortunate and very happy that this came out and she was unarrested.
Welcome to Truth and Consequences with Doug Poppa, episode 55 for Monday, June 21st, 2021. The news clip that was just played was from KTNV 13 Action News Las Vegas that aired on August 23, 2018, highlighting another Las Vegas Metro Police travesty of justice. This time the victim of police incompetence and negligence was Keyherra, spelled Keyherra Green, an innocent woman who was wrongfully arrested and charged by the police with murder in 2018. Green was incarcerated for 2 months and 11 days. Before I get into the specifics of how this travesty occurred, that was Las Vegas Metro Police Homicide Bureau Lieutenant Ray Spencer that appeared in that 2018 news clip. You heard Lieutenant Spencer admit that it was the public defender representing the wrongfully accused Ms. Green who actually viewed the police body camera footage that Spencer said was in the possession of the Homicide Bureau that led to Ms. Green being cleared of the wrongful arrest. I'm glad that Lieutenant Spencer had the wherewithal to say that, because in effect, he threw his own homicide detectives under the bus, because homicide detectives who investigated that case were obviously careless in the least and incompetent at best because they failed to view body camera footage that was in the possession of the police that depicted the actual murder suspect, Keyherra, Keyherra Green, prior to arresting the wrong Ms. Green. This nonsense about similar names and date of births that were close is a poor excuse to lock up an innocent woman, specifically since the wrongly accused Green looks nothing like that actual suspect. You also heard Lieutenant Spencer say they showed a single photograph of Green to witnesses who identified her. Since when does the Las Vegas Metro Police use a single photo for witnesses' identification? According to what I know, the police use what's called a six-pack. That is a photo lineup consisting of a suspect and 5 subjects similar in appearance to the suspect. That was not done in this case. Why was that? Police protocol went out the door and it ended in a rush to judgment that resulted in
when
an
you
innocent woman being incarcerated for 2 months and 11 days for a crime that she did not commit. How did all this start? I will now read excerpts from the declaration of arrest warrant that I obtained that was sworn and signed by Las Vegas Metro Police Homicide Detective Fred Merrick on March 14, 2018, to effect the arrest of what ended up being the wrong Ms. Green. You can view the entire declaration of arrest on the screenshots. Just for clarity, the events mentioned in the declaration of arrest were all committed by the actual murder suspect. The problem is that the wrong Ms. Green is identified as the suspect. By the way, that declaration is a disgrace. Names are misspelled at times, and grammar is questionable. These are the words that were written by Homicide Detective Fred Merrick. On January 23, 2018, Masha Elias Kari requested Metro Police to conduct a welfare check on her father Gossam at his home at 3001 Cabana Drive, number 47, Las Vegas, due to unusual phone calls placed to her father the day prior. Patrol responded to the address and contacted Keyherra Green, DOB 817-1988, who advised Gossam had just left for Arizona and should return near the beginning of February 2018. On March 3, 2018, Masha Elias Kari filed a missing person report. Elias Kari advised the LVMPD she had called her father's cellular number and a black female answered and advised she had the wrong number. Elias Kari noted over 4,000 calls and text messages on her father's phone since their last communication on January 22, 2018. Elias Kari explained that this type of behavior was unusual for her father. On March 4, 2018, her brother Aria texted the father and received a response which led him to believe someone was in the possession of that phone. The response text stated, quote, "You can come over at 1. Are you 420 friendly?" Aria responded, "Yep. Are you alone?" Aria then received a text message which included a self-picture of a black female, approximately 25 years of age, sitting on a bathtub. Aria recognized the tub of that which belonged in his father's house. On March 8, 2018, Elias Kari family hired a private investigator to respond to 3001 Cabana Drive, number 47. At 1900 hours, the investigator arrived and detected a foul odor coming from the inside of the residence. LVMPD was notified, patrol arrived, made entry into the residence, and discovered the badly decomposed body of a male wrapped in plastic bags inside a closet. The body was later identified as Gossam Elias Kari. During the initial investigation, a white female identified as Diana Soros arrived and informed patrol she was a resident of number 47. Homicide Detective Cody conducted an interview with Soros. The following is a synopsis of that interview. Soros advised she met Gossam, who she refers to as Sam, through an ad on Craigslist. Soros explained she rents one of the rooms in the residence and a black female that she knows as Keyherra as staying in a room with Gossam. Soros believed Keyherra was in an intimate relationship with Gossam. Soros stated she has not seen Gossam since on or about January 22, 2018. Soros was aware of a sour odor emanating from Gossam's room. However, Keyherra told her it was from bad food. Detective Cody showed Soros the text message picture of the black female. Soros identified the picture as Keyherra. Detective Cody conducted a records check of Keyherra Green, date of birth 8/17/1988, and confirmed the text picture received by Aria was in fact Green. Detectives determined that Gossam's silver Dodge Ram pickup was missing, and Soros last saw Green driving it. Detective Cody contacted Masha Elias Kari, who advised she is the account holder of Gossam's cellular phone, and that numerous calls and text messages are being received currently on the phone. On February 2, 2018, Homicide Detective Grimmett was contacted by Detective Cannon, who relayed the following information. Detective Cannon had information from a source who wished to remain anonymous regarding a recent murder. Detective Cannon explained his source claimed an unidentified female who resided at 3001 Cabana Drive, space 147, Las Vegas, had killed her significant other and hid his body in a bedroom closet. Detective Cannon explained the source had received the information from another person who had received the information from a counselor out of the state of California. At approximately 1400 hours, Detective Grimmett contacted LVMPD Patrol Sergeant Harrison Potter and requested Southeast Area Command patrol officers conduct a welfare check of the occupant of 3001 Cabana Drive, space number 147. Sergeant Potter responded. Upon arrival, officers contacted Paul Walsh, who was cooperative and claimed there was no one in distress or being abused. Officers conducted a check of the interior and found nothing to corroborate the information provided by Detective Cannon. On March 8, 2018, Homicide Detective Cody briefed Detective Grimmett regarding the event. Detective Cody explained the body of a deceased male had been located at 3001 Cabana Drive, space 47, and the suspect had been identified as a black female named Keyherra Green. Given the similarities, Detective Grimmett advised Detective Cody of the information he had received from Detective Cannon. Detective Cody provided Detective Grimmett with an LVMPD booking photograph of Green and asked Detective Grimmett to forward to Detective Cannon. Upon review, Detective Cannon explained his source had previously identified the female as being black, but had provided no further information. Detective Cannon agreed to attempt to contact his source of information and attempt to use the photograph to confirm the identity of the black female involved. Detective Cannon also explained the source had reached out to others close to the counselor in an effort to gather more details about the black female who claimed to be responsible for the male's death. Their information that Detective Grimmett had received matched the crime scene, except for the space number. Detective Grimmett sent patrol to space 147, and the space Elias Khari was found was 47. On March 9, 2018, a pen register for Elias Khari's cell phone was authored by Detective Cody and approved by Deputy District Attorney Pamela Weckerly and granted by the Honorable Judge Alf. The victim's cell phone was last in the area of Tropicana and Spencer. Detectives conducted a records check and found Green had been stopped outside of an apartment complex at 1701 Katy Avenue in Las Vegas. On March 10, 2018, Detectives Merrick and Cody located Elias Khari's truck at the apartment complex located at 1701 Katy Avenue in Las Vegas. A white male adult, later identified as Donald Early, attempted to enter Elias Khari's truck. Detective Cody conducted an interview with Early. Early told Detective Cody he had purchased the vehicle from a friend identified as Matthew Sweeney around January 12, 2018. Early explained when he purchased the vehicle, a black female was with Sweeney. Detective Cody showed Early a picture of Green. Early affirmed Green was the black female with Sweeney at the time of the sale. Early showed Detective Cody a signed vehicle title and a bill of sale for the vehicle. On March 10, 2018, Detectives Merrick and Cody located Matthew Sweeney at the Clark County Detention Center. Detectives conducted an interview with Sweeney, who relayed the following. Sweeney met Keyherra Green at the Mulaski Park around the second week of January. Green was in possession of a silver 2002 Dodge Ram truck. Green asked Sweeney for assistance in fixing the vehicle. Once the vehicle was fixed, Green presented a vehicle title and signed the vehicle over to Sweeney. Sweeney then sold the vehicle to his friend, Donald Early. On March 10, 2018, detectives searched Elias Khari's mobile home, located at 3001 Cabana Drive, space B47, Las Vegas. During the search, detectives noticed a yellow liquid that had saturated the floor of the closet where Elias Khari was found. Detectives then found a suitcase with paperwork that indicated it was Green's suitcase. Inside the suitcase, detectives located 2 gallons of pool acid, which was the same color and consistence of the liquid found in the closet where Elias Khari was found. Wherefore, the declarant prays that a warrant of arrest be issued for suspect Green, Keyherra, Keyherra. On April 28, 2020, attorneys representing Keyherra Green filed a civil action against the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and others including homicide detectives Laura Cody and Fred Merrick, for false arrest/false imprisonment, unreasonable search and seizure, violation of 14th Amendment, wrongful incarceration, and other charges. As late as June 11, 2021, court records alleged that the Las Vegas Metro Police had destroyed several items of evidence in the case. The following are excerpts from the lawsuit. Plaintiff Keyherra Green, an African-American female with disabilities, was wrongfully arrested, extradited, and jailed for 72 days, a period of over 2 months, without justification or probable cause. This civil rights action seeks compensatory and punitive damages from defendants for violating various rights of plaintiff under the United States Constitution and state law in connection with the investigation, affidavit in support of arrest, plaintiff's subsequent wrongful arrest, extradition, and incarceration by officers of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department for the crime of felony murder of an elderly person due to the actions of Merrick, Cody, and Does 4 through 5. Her arrest and incarceration could have easily been prevented. At the time of plaintiff's arrest, LVMPD had the identity of the true suspect captured on body camera recordings, together with the true suspect's name, date of birth, identification, information, and photograph. Notwithstanding that knowledge, LVMPD, Merrick, Cody, and Does 4 through 5 caused to be issued an arrest warrant based on a deficient and false affidavit of probable cause. Plaintiff repeatedly told the arresting officers they arrested the wrong person. Other than shared race and gender with the true suspect, plaintiff had a different first and middle name, birth date, and physical appearance than the true suspect, who later confessed to the crime. Defendants did not have probable cause to arrest plaintiff, and instead did so with the defective warrant of arrest. During her incarceration, plaintiff did not have all of her medications she required, making her ordeal all the more harrowing and causing her extreme emotional distress. Defendants Merrick and Cody failed, refused, neglected, and acted with deliberate indifference to the rights of plaintiff in the following respects. They failed to do an even basic review and cross-check of information obtained from Patrol Officer Daniel Stopka, and they ignored critical information that would have prevented plaintiff's arrest and 72-day ordeal in jail. This conduct shows reckless disregard and deliberate indifference to the rights of plaintiff, and plaintiff would not have suffered arrest and incarceration as long as she did, but for the conduct of defendants. On August 21, 2018, LVMPD Homicide Lieutenant Ray Spencer confirmed to the public in the Las Vegas Review-Journal that plaintiff was arrested for murder, a crime she didn't commit. On September 27, 2018, defendants Cody and Merrick testified to the grand jury that the true murderer was Keyherra Jean Green, and testified under oath that plaintiff had been arrested for a crime she did not commit. By the time of her release, plaintiff had been wrongfully incarcerated on charges of felony murder for 2 months and 11 days. On or about March 8, 2018, defendants Merrick and Cody went to Mr. Aldascari's home at 3001 Cabana Drive, number 47, Las Vegas, where Officer Stopka had been for the welfare check, and found the decomposing body of Mr. Aldascari. Merrick and Cody were assigned to investigate the decedent's murder, and they immediately attempted to develop a case to solve the murder of Mr. Aldascari. At the time they discovered the decedent's body, defendant Merrick also found paperwork in the name of both the decedent and a female named Keyherra Jean Green. Defendant Merrick provided this information to defendant Cody, who performed a records check of Keyherra Jean Green. Defendant Cody ran a scope record check on the name Keyherra Green and located a black adult female. Detective Cody found a booking picture identified with Keyherra Jean Green. Plaintiff never met Early or Sweeney as set forth above. Plaintiff never had title to decedent's vehicle, nor did plaintiff drive or sell decedent's vehicle to Early. The true killer, Keyherra Jean Green, is the black female referenced in paragraph A above. Thereafter, Detective Cody provided Detective Grimmett with an LVMPD booking photograph. Upon review, Detective Cannon explained his source had previously identified the female as being a black female, but provided no other information. Plaintiff alleges that at the time, neither defendants Cody or Merrick, nor any other officer with LVMPD checked the identity of the black female in the body camera footage of Officer Stopka, or any information that Officer Stopka obtained from his welfare check of decedent's home on January 23, 2018. LVMPD did not use the photograph and video to compare the same with information obtained by Officer Stopka on January 23, 2018, to confirm and gather more details about the black female responsible for decedent's murder. On March 14, 2018, defendants Merrick and Cody caused to be issued a document entitled Declaration of Warrant/Summons, hereinafter the arrest affidavit. The March 14, 2018 arrest affidavit prayed for the arrest of one Keyherra Green. The arrest affidavit did not contain the name Keyherra Jean Green. At the time of her arrest, officers entered plaintiff's grandmother's home, searched the home for plaintiff, drew their guns on plaintiff, and told her she was under arrest. Plaintiff repeatedly asked why she was under arrest, to which the arresting officers responded they would tell her at the police station. At the time of her arrest, plaintiff repeatedly protested and told the arresting Los Angeles Police Department officers that she did not know why she was being arrested and that she did not do anything wrong and that they had the wrong person. Plaintiff also informed arresting officers that she had disabilities that required medication. The arresting officers took plaintiff's identification information, including her credit cards, bearing her name. Following her arrest, plaintiff was brought to the Los Angeles Police Department's 77th Street station, where she was told she was arrested for murder. Plaintiff continued to protest her innocence. Plaintiff was told that they knew, quote, it was her, and that plaintiff was, quote, lying. Plaintiff was booked and processed. Plaintiff continued to tell officers she did not murder anyone. Defendant Cody falsely claimed plaintiff made a statement during her arrest, quote, is this about murder? Plaintiff was subsequently extradited to Nevada based on the arrest warrant. The subpoenaed information and photograph of the true killer, Keyherra Jean Green, did not look anything like her. The true killer had short hair and a noticeable gap between her teeth that plaintiff did not have. The documents reveal that, at the time of the initial homicide investigation, plaintiff was not the individual whose information was obtained by the LVMPD police officer Stopka at decedent's home from the welfare check dating back to January 23, 2018. Plaintiff's public defender provided the Clark County District Attorney information that they had arrested and incarcerated the wrong individual. On June 6, 2018, defendants were notified again that plaintiff was the wrong suspect and had a completely different appearance, first name, middle name, and date of birth as the true suspect. Plaintiff was still incarcerated as of that date. On June 7, 2018, 72 days after she had been arrested, plaintiff was released from the Clark County Detention Center after the Clark County District Attorney facilitated an accelerated release. Plaintiff had been incarcerated and in custody since her arrest on May 7, 2018, and remained incarcerated until her dismissal of her case. On August 7, 2018, LVMPD arrested Keyherra Jean Green, the correct suspect and confessed killer. The actual killer, Keyherra Jean Green, confessed to LVMPD that she used a shirt to strangle 73-year-old Ghassem al-Askari until he fell and hit his head on the bathtub. On August 8, 2018, the district attorney dismissed the case against plaintiff. On September 27, 2018, a grand jury indicted Keyherra Jean Green for the murder of Ghassem al-Askari. The arrest affidavit does not contain the name Keyherra Jean Green, the true murderer, even though her name and spelling of her name was available to LVMPD defendants Merrick and Cody from the start of their murder investigation. The arrest affidavit specifically references LVMPD patrol officers' welfare check on January 23, 2018, but fails to contain any information obtained from said welfare check, indicating that Merrick or Cody made any effort to contact, interview the LVMPD patrol officer who conducted the welfare check, review the body camera, or review communication log notes of that patrol officer's initial interaction with the actual killer, so as to specify with particularity the identity of the subject of the arrest affidavit, and arrest warrant. When defendants Merrick and/or Cody did not review the body camera footage from January 23, 2018 until after they completed the arrest affidavit, if they had reviewed the video prior to completing the arrest affidavit, they would have observed that Keyherra Jean Green, the actual killer, had short hair, a gap in her teeth, which while plaintiff had long hair and no gap in her teeth. Similarly, plaintiff had a different physical build than Keyherra Green, and unlike Keyherra Green, plaintiff did not have children and did not have identification from Texas. Plaintiff also had a different date of birth than Keyherra Green, a different middle name, and they both spell their first names differently. Cody and Merrick's failure to review Officer Stopka's body-worn camera footage of his January 23, 2020 welfare check of Ghassem Al-Akari's home was deliberately indifferent to the rights of plaintiff in their homicide investigation and issuance of arrest warrant for plaintiff's arrest. January 23, 2018 welfare check. Defendants did not have probable cause to arrest plaintiff based on the arrest affidavit. Defendants were deliberately indifferent to the rights of plaintiff in execution of the same and in arresting plaintiff based on the defective arrest warrant. Defendant's false and misleading affidavit of probable cause was submitted 6 days after they were assigned the homicide investigation. In the arrest affidavit, defendant spoke with the witness who, upon information and belief, identified a photograph of Keyherra Jean Green, the actual killer. The photograph and all information shown from a scope record check indicates that plaintiff's date of birth is August 17, 1988, whereas the actual killer has a date of birth of August 22, 1988, has 2 children, and was born in Iowa. There is nothing in the arrest affidavit that connected plaintiff with the crime other than the detective's coercive and selective identifications of a black female that did not follow protocols for LVMPD in identifying suspects related to a serious criminal case investigation prior to the filing of the arrest affidavit. Based on a deliberately indifferent and reckless investigation with no effort to identify the correct suspect, defendants and each of them arbitrarily selected plaintiff as a suspect based on a cursory scope record check. Plaintiff was arrested at a Los Angeles home where she was living with her grandparents. The family awoke to officers ordering them to exit the home in the early morning. Defendants Cody and Merrick deliberately failed to review the body camera footage from January 23, 2018, which would show clearly that plaintiff was not the person who was seen and photographed on January 23, 2018, that is, the actual suspected killer. The arrest affidavit was entirely based on unsupported, coercive, and selective photographs that were misleading to the individuals who saw the photographs in order to advance their investigation without any regard to the plaintiff's rights. Defendants Merrick and/or Cody, does 4 through 5, possess specific, particular identifying information of the true suspect, Keyherra Jean Green, before and/or at the time of drafting, utterance, and/or declaration of the arrest warrant, such that the inclusion of the same would have prevented or otherwise proven exculpatory to the defendant. Defendants Merrick, Cody, and does 4 through 5 ignored body camera footage and other information obtained early in the homicide investigation that revealed the identity of the true subject of the arrest affidavit of arrest for felony murder. Defendants Merrick, Cody, and does 4 through 5 violated and were deliberately indifferent to plaintiff's constitutional rights by its decision to incarcerate plaintiff on the arrest warrant based on the arrest affidavit, even though defendants Merrick, Cody, and does 4 through 5 knew or should have known that plaintiff did not match the arrest affidavit's descriptors, to wit. The arrest affidavit had the wrong spelling of both the actual killer and the plaintiff, identifying Keyherra Green. The arrest affidavit contains multiple witness statements who could personally identify the actual suspect/killer. The arrest affidavit states that the true suspect provided her identification information to an LVMPD patrol officer, including information which exonerated plaintiff. The arrest affidavit references a photograph of the actual suspect, which could have prevented the arrest, extradition, and incarceration of plaintiff. The arrest affidavit contains information indicating that the true subject of the arrest affidavit could have been easily ascertained by viewing the body camera footage of the patrol officer who performed a welfare check at the decedent/victim's home, and the arrest affidavit generally describes the suspect as a, quote, black woman without further descriptive information, despite admittedly having possession of a photograph resulting in deprivation of plaintiff's constitutional rights. Defendants Merrick, Cody, and Doe's 4 through 5's decision to issue an arrest affidavit leading to the arrest, extradition, and incarceration of plaintiff for 72 days lacked procedural safeguards to prevent her continued mistaken detention. Defendants Merrick, Cody, and Doe's 4 through 5 failed to investigate plaintiff's claim of mistaken identity after her repeated protest. Based on defects in the arrest affidavit, defendants Merrick and Cody did not have probable cause to believe that plaintiff was the person in the arrest warrant. Defendants Merrick, Cody, and Doe's 4 through 5 possessed information indicating plaintiff should be released from incarceration, but did not release her until 72 days after her arrest and extradition. The conduct of defendants Merrick, Cody, and Doe's 4 through 5 were willful, wanton, malicious, and done with reckless disregard, deliberate indifference for the rights and safety of plaintiff, and therefore justifies the imposition of exemplary and punitive damages as to defendants Merrick, Cody, and Doe's 4 through 5. As a result of the grossly inadequate investigation and arrest affidavit by Merrick, Cody, and Doe's 4 through 5, and failure of said defendants to intervene, plaintiff was unlawfully seized, detained, and searched, and accused of homicide. The civil action is currently in the discovery phase. The following are a few interrogatories that Keyherra Green's attorneys want answered by homicide detective Fred Merrick. Admit that a competent, well-trained, and well-supervised detective would have known that plaintiff did not kill Ghassem al-Askari. Admit that you have previously arrested misidentified suspects. Admit that you have been disciplined for arresting misidentified suspects. Admit that the declaration of warrant/summons you completed and signed that prayed for the arrest of Keyherra Green was not complete in spelling and punctuation as required by the LVMPD manual. Admit that the declaration of warrant/summons you completed and signed that prayed for the arrest of Keyherra Green was not reviewed by a detail sergeant as required by the LVMPD manual. Admit that the suitcase with paperwork that indicated it was Green's suitcase, quoting your initial disclosures, was destroyed by the LVMPD. Admit that the T-Mobile bag with paperwork and information, quoting your initial disclosures, was destroyed by the LVMPD. Admit that the McDonald's uniform paperwork bearing the name Keyherra Green, quoting your initial disclosures, was destroyed by the LVMPD. Now my closing comments. This case is very troubling. This was just a synopsis of what is contained in the civil complaint. Any case like this is troubling when the police are responsible for violating the civil rights of an innocent person, or any person for that matter. I still have plenty of questions on this one, though. Like, did Officer Stopka, who conducted the welfare check on Mr. al-Askari in January of 2018, did he enter the mobile home to conduct a check when the actual murder, Keyherra Jean Green, opened the door and showed him her Texas identification and told him that al-Askari was in Arizona? I don't know. Haven't seen it in the lawsuit. I'm assuming crime scene analysts obtained fingerprints of the murder scene. Did any of the prints come back to Keyherra Jean Green, the murderer, prior to the arrest of the wrongly accused Green? And why that body camera footage was not reviewed by the homicide detectives at the outset is also very troubling. This case is similar to the case of Jesus Carvajal, the innocent man who was wrongly arrested and charged in 2018 by Las Vegas Metro Police vice detectives with multiple counts of sexual assault and kidnapping, which he did not commit. He was totally innocent, just like Ms. Green. Another case of misidentification that was the result of an incompetent and negligent police investigation. That's it for this episode, folks. Next episode will be part 2 of Sheriff Joseph Lombardo's cover-up of the negligence that led to the 2019 rape of a 12-year-old girl. Follow Truth and Consequences with Doug Poppa on YouTube and Facebook, and audio podcasts on Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, and other platforms. Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen. See you on the next episode.